Inside a police convoy, a mysterious man is bound by chains and has his head covered. He is being taken to a maximum security prison, but the driver stops the vehicle in the middle of the road, saying he needs to go to the bathroom. While waiting for the man to return, one of the security guards asks her colleague if the stories about the prisoner are true. He replies that, according to the report, the guy was convicted of eliminating his own family in a frightening way. However, during his time in prison, he met Dr. Bickley, who used him as a guinea pig in one of his macabre experiments. This experiment consisted of injecting him with a growth compound capable of developing all the physical attributes of its victim. As a result, the prisoner, who was short in stature and light in weight, was transformed into a huge, powerful, and extremely dangerous monster. With these new abilities, the creature managed to escape and eliminated 12 prisoners and half of the prison's directors. Faced with such a dangerous creature, it was decided that he would be transferred to another prison and there he would be condemned and eliminated. After telling the whole story, the security guard pulls out a knife and threatens to eliminate the prisoner, before he receives the injection and is destroyed forever. However, with its strength, the creature breaks free of the chains, grabs the knife and starts attacking the guard again and again. His colleague is horrified by this and pulls out her pistol, but before she can fire, the creature steps on the wounded policeman's head and destroys it. He then turns on the security guard who, out of fear, ends up dropping her pistol. Without hesitation, the prisoner uses his chain and attacks the woman until she runs out of air. After finishing them both off, the villain makes his way to the driver, who is distracted by his cell phone and becomes another victim. Hours later, the prisoner finds his hiding place in an abandoned cave. Inside, he sees a box containing masks and puts on one in the shape of a pig with huge tusks. Far away, a group of friends are traveling by car to celebrate Kate's 21st birthday. However, the young woman falls ill on the way and they are forced to stop in the middle of a forest. Kate's older sister, Susie, goes to check on her and the young woman says she heard her friend, Judith, talking about the urban legend of the pigman. The story goes that a scary piglet roams the outskirts of the forest, but her sister says it's all just a legend. Meanwhile, the prisoner is sorting out the pieces of his victims, until he receives a visit from Mr. Hogarth, who owns a cottage nearby. Apparently, he's helping the piglet and warns him not to devour all the meat he's got, otherwise he'll run out of food. Even so, the guy promises that he'll have a huge feast, as he's managed to lure a group of girls to his cabin. Meanwhile, Judith, along with Alex and Diane, call the sisters to continue their journey, until they come across a young farmer carrying a shotgun. Judith asks him if he knows where Camp Festoon is, as they plan to celebrate her friend's birthday at the cabin. However, the guy, called Brett, warns them not to go there, because anyone who goes to the camp never comes back. Believing the guy to be crazy, the girls ignore his warning and Kate finds the location using the GPS on her cell phone. The five then get back into the car and drive through the forest until they finally find the campsite. The place is apparently empty and the other guests, Bruce, his girlfriend Riley and her sister Courtney, haven't arrived yet. This makes Kate even more nervous and, to make matters worse, Judith tries to scare her, saying that the rest of the group must have been captured by the pigman. Kate tries to ignore her friend's taunts, but for a moment she has the impression of seeing the monster near the gate. The young woman is startled, but when she looks again, there is no one around. The five then decide to explore the cabin and come across the owner of the place, Mr. Hogarth. Despite his strange manner, he shows the guests around and says he'll be next door if they need help. Finally, the girls decide to get ready for the big party and wait for their friends to arrive. They soon find the forest, but the car breaks down in the middle of the journey and they are forced to make their way on foot. During the walk, Courtney stops in the middle of the forest and begins to draw a picture, and her sister believes that it will take her at least an hour to finish it. Bruce then decides to take advantage of this time and invites his girlfriend for a romantic moment in the forest. However, they both hear strange noises coming from afar, but Bruce believes it must be an animal nearby. Unfortunately for the couple, the pigman finds them in the forest and, in a surprise attack, he hits the young woman's body with an iron hook. Bruce despairs and tries to tackle the piglet, but he tackles him to the ground, shoots the hook into the young man's mouth and pulls with all his might. With no idea what's going on, the five friends start the festivities with games and lots of drinking. Kate initially doesn't want to drink, but they all insist, as she has just come of age. At their insistence, the young woman decides to try it, but then she asks to go to the bathroom. Her friends continue to drink and don't realize that the pigman is watching them from afar. Inside the cabin, Kate begins to have a nervous breakdown and does her best to calm down. When she looks to the side, she sees a door covered with a curtain and, when she opens it, a guy covered in blood and in shock appears on the other side, asking for help. Kate goes to tell her friends and they call the police, who send Officer Burke to investigate. He calls Mr. Hogarth in for questioning, and the owner of the cabin says it must have been a homeless man who was attacked by an animal in the woods. The policeman isn't convinced by this story and tells them to call the station if anything strange happens. He then leaves and promises to take the guy to the hospital, while Mr. Hogarth convinces the girls to continue enjoying the party. Back in the forest, Courtney finishes her drawing and sets off in search of her sister and brother-in-law. However, during her search, she finds only scraps of clothing and soon comes across the pigman. The girl despairs and runs away, dropping her notebook which, coincidentally or not, she had drawn the piglet's face in. To her misfortune, Courtney ends up stepping on a bear trap and seriously injures her foot. Without being able to make a sound, she tries to remove the trap, but the piglet appears again and strikes her with his sharp hook. Minutes later, at the cottage, the girls are having fun in the living room, until Judith decides to tell the whole story about the pig man. According to legend, the guy was a small, thin man who was tormented by his parents and they nicknamed him Piglet. One day, he fell in love with a woman who was also called Kate. The two soon became a couple, but one night, he got angry with his partner and attacked her until he eliminated her. Upon hearing this, Kate became even more nervous and Susie became enraged, attacking Judith for frightening her sister. Alex tries to stop a fight from breaking out and Judith tells her that they are exaggerating, because this story is just an urban legend. Even so, Diane doesn't like the girl's gesture and accuses her of continuing to scare people with her macabre stories. This time, Judith is the one who is hurt by the accusations and leaves, putting an end to the party atmosphere. Shortly afterwards, Kate tries to stay alone in the forest, until Brett reappears on the scene. He warns her that she and her friends are in danger in the hut, but Susie appears shortly afterwards and tells him to leave. In another part of the forest, Judith tries to calm down after the argument, but she finds the notebook with the drawing of the pig man on the ground. She soon recognizes that it's Courtney's notebook and sets off in search of her, until she finds the piglet's hideout. Inside, she sees Courtney, still alive and bound with chains. Without understanding what's going on, she tries to free her, but the girl hears the monster's footsteps and tells Judith to hide. As she feared, Piglet appears on the scene and approaches Courtney, who screams for help, but the pig hits her in the face with its hook, eliminating her for good. Judith watches in horror as her friend loses her life and tries to escape through the door, but it is locked. Seconds later, Piglet appears behind her and, using his strength, he lifts Judith into the air and begins to squeeze her. The young woman tries to defend herself, but with a single movement, the monster hits her neck, making her one of its victims. Meanwhile, near the hut, Susie tries to calm her sister down, as she knows about the trauma she suffered in the past. Her ex-boyfriend, Spencer, was a dangerous guy who started stalking her after they broke up. However, Susie promises that she will soon be far away from him in this town, as she has found a job elsewhere and wants her sister to move in with her. Kate is delighted with the news and accepts the invitation without thinking twice. Meanwhile, Diane and Alex have a moment alone in the bathtub, until they realize that Mr. Hogarth is watching them from nearby. Diane is furious at the lack of privacy and tells the guy to get out of there as soon as possible. As soon as the old man leaves, Alex asks her girlfriend to calm down, but she gets so angry at the situation that she decides to go back to the cabin and rest for a while. As soon as she returns home, Diane goes to take a shower, without realizing that Mr. Hogarth has returned, holding an axe. As soon as she notices him, the young woman tries to defend herself, but the old man prevents her from leaving the bathroom and begins to strike her repeatedly with the axe. Despite her best efforts, Diane can't resist her injuries and the whole bathroom is stained red. Unaware of what has happened to her girlfriend, Alex continues to bathe in the tub, but Kate and Susie show up, saying they haven't found Judith anywhere. In addition, Bruce, Riley and Courtney haven't arrived so far and Susie suspects that something bad is going on. The two sisters decide to drive to the nearest town to ask for help, but Alex refuses, as she thinks it would be better to stay with Diane. However, when she tries to start the car, it doesn't work, which only increases the group's suspicions. Susie then suggests staying in the cabin and waiting for Mr. Hogarth, but Diane changes her mind and says it's better to go out and look for her friends, as they may be in danger. The sisters follow her to prevent her from getting hurt, but halfway there, the woman tells them they'd better split up. Alex goes to look in the hut next door, while Susie and Kate must return to the hut and wait for their friends to arrive, without suspecting that she is going straight to Piglet's hiding place. In addition to him, Mr. Hogarth is also hiding and he says he will distract the girl while the monster prepares to finish her off. Alex continues her search in a nearby workshop and finds Mr. Hogarth, apparently injured. She tries to help him, but it was all just a distraction, so Piglet attacks the young woman by surprise. The villain drags her by the hair and hits her with a sledgehammer, knocking her unconscious. Despite the injury, the young woman survives and wakes up inside the beast's hideout. Unable to understand what has happened, she looks around and, to her horror, finds her girlfriend's head on the ground. Alex also sees the bodies of other people, but before she can flee, the monster reappears and eliminates her with several blows from a sledgehammer. Now all that's left are Susie and Kate, who are inside the cabin waiting for their friends, but there's no sign of them. Susie again tries to calm down her sister, who begins to believe that all this is being caused by her ex-boyfriend. Their conversation is interrupted by Brett, who again asks them to leave before the monster returns. He promises to give them a lift in his car, but Susie is still suspicious of his intentions and refuses. Instead, she tells him to put the fuel in her car so that the three of them can leave in her car. The young man agrees to do this and drives off, with Kate scolding her sister for not accepting his help straight away. The two start arguing, but again, someone knocks on the door. Susie thinks it's the guy again, but instead of him, Piglet appears in, holding Alex's body and throwing it towards the sisters. Now that they know that the legend of the pigman is real, the two flee the scene, with the pig going after them. Kate hides inside a bathroom, but Piglet appears from behind and uses his hook to grab the girl by the neck. Before it's too late, Susie sees her sister in danger and uses a fire extinguisher to make the monster let go of Kate. As soon as the two manage to escape, they come across Brett, armed with his shotgun and pointing it in the sisters' direction. However, he quickly tells them to get down and shoots the creature, which falls to the ground wounded. The young man ends up dropping his shotgun and Susie quickly picks it up and tells him to explain what's going on. He says he has heard stories about Mr. Hogarth keeping a pigman in his hut and eliminating anyone who comes near there. He even threatened him, saying he would eliminate him if he tried to hunt near his land. Because of this, as soon as he saw the girls approaching the hut, he tried to stop them so that they wouldn't get hurt. Kate believes that the young man is telling the truth, but Susie is still suspicious and tells her sister to tie his hands. Brett insists that there is something wrong with Mr. Hogarth and that he must be handed over to the police. However, the old man appears before them and begins to accuse Brett, saying that he is the one who keeps the pigman and manipulates him to eliminate other people. Not knowing who is telling the truth, Kate points her shotgun at the two of them and Mr. Hogarth asks her to hand over the gun. Just then, behind him, comes Piglet, who grabs Brett and starts pushing his head into a wooden structure. Tragically, the sisters discover the truth when they see the young hunter being eliminated and Kate tries to shoot the wild piglet. However, Mr. Hogarth picks up the rifle and aims it at the young woman, but Susie gets in the line of fire to protect her sister and is shot in the leg. The piglet continues to attack Brett and Kate takes the opportunity to lead her sister away. Seeing the two fleeing, Mr. Hogarth orders the monster to go after them and finish his hunt. The sisters try to escape, but Susie is badly hurt and asks her sister to leave her. Kate refuses, but her sister insists, because she is the only one who has any chance of surviving. Kate then runs out of there, but soon after, she sees the piglet, who drags Susie to his hiding place. There, Mr. Hogarth appears shortly afterwards and demands to know where Kate is, but Susie refuses to tell him. The two then set off after the girl, but seconds later, Kate appears in the hiding place and tries to free her sister. However, she can't get the chains off and Susie insists, for the last time, that she leave and start her life again. Reluctantly, Kate obeys her and Susie stays in the hiding place, but soon Piglet returns, holding a knife. He begins to wound the young woman's face with the blade and finally gives her the final blow. Meanwhile, Kate runs off down the road and meets Officer Burke's car. She begs for his help and the guy promises to take her to the station, but he soon joins the girl's hands behind her back, as if to handcuff her. The policeman then reveals that he is also on Piglet's side and Kate tries to run away, but he knocks her down with a blow to her face. Hours later, Kate wakes up inside the cabin, sitting at the table with Piglet, Mr. Hogarth and Officer Burke. They start singing happy birthday to the young woman and, as a birthday present, they give her a human foot with a lit candle. The old man forces her to eat it, but she refuses and asks them to let her go. However, the old man reveals that the three of them are actually brothers and that Piglet chose her to be his companion. As soon as the pigman managed to escape from prison, his brothers found out about Dr. Bickley's experiments, which left him practically invincible. Since then, they have helped him feed on human victims, but now they have come up with an even more macabre plan. Kate is to be Piglet's mate and give birth to his children, who will inherit his strength and endurance. With this, they will create an army of bizarre piglets who will be invincible. After his brother explains the whole plan, Piglet gets up and wants to enjoy the moment with his companion right now. However, Hogarth says that first, they need to organize the wedding ceremony. The monster obeys his brother and leaves Kate in the room with Officer Burke. The guy decides to take advantage of this and tries to win over the girl who, for a moment, pretends to be interested in him. But as soon as he lets his guard down, she picks up her knife and starts hitting him several times. Hogarth sees everything and tries to attack the young woman, but she finds Piglet's hook near the table and uses it to hit the old man in the neck. With the two eliminated, Kate runs away and tries to start the car. Behind her, Piglet appears and, without hesitation, the young woman reverses the car and presses it against a tree. She then speeds away from the hut, but halfway there, the vehicle stops working. The solution is to flee on foot in the middle of the night and, after walking for a while, she finds a car on the road, but no one is around. The girl keeps looking and sees a garage nearby. She asks for help, but is confronted by a man wearing a mask and pointing a shotgun in her direction. Kate tries to explain the situation, but the guy orders her to kneel on the ground and threatens to call the police. The young woman obeys, but when she sees Piglet coming towards her, Kate tries to warn the guy, who ends up having his head removed by the pig. The young woman then runs away and takes the car key, which was on the table, with her. As soon as she gets into the car, Piglet tries to open the door, but Kate closes it at the last second and speeds off towards the road. She thinks she's out of danger, but an animal crosses her path and she loses control, causing the car to overturn in the middle of the forest. Exhausted and injured, she drags herself out of the vehicle just before it explodes. The situation only gets worse when the piglet reappears and tries to eliminate her, but the girl manages to escape and hides in the forest. The monster sets off after her and goes to investigate behind a tree, but doesn't find her there. Kate takes advantage of his distraction and, with a wooden handle, she hits him on the head and knocks him unconscious. She then decides to avenge her sister and her friends and, holding the villain's axe, she strikes his neck with all her might. Finally, she removes the piglet's head and throws it away, ensuring that the legend of the pig man is over forever. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.